The Prison Experience, Blackburn, Arrival, Chapter 8. I arrived at Blackburn Correctional Complex in early April 2016, approximately 2 years after the auto accident. I was taken through the gate to R&D where my items were gone through by the guards, and I was processed to get a dorm and a bed number. I ended up with a bed in dorm 3, and after settling in, I started trying to figure out the do's and don'ts of the place, where I could go, and etc. Blackburn is a fairly large place. There were 5 dorms in operation: a chapel, a chow hall, a library, a gym, a canteen, R&D, and other buildings are scattered within its borders. 600 inmates were housed there at any given time, with inmates coming in and going out every week. One of the first guys I met in dorm 3 was a guy who was from Pike County and knew the area in which I was from. I don't recall ever meeting him before. He had been at Blackburn for some time, and he told me some of the basic stuff. He talked about getting into programs and the ones he had done. Getting into programs that reduced your sentence after completion seemed like the thing to do, so I tried to find out all I could about those and went about signing up for them. Some of them were hard to get into. There are 600 other inmates on the yard, and each program only has a certain number of seats. I had to find out who to talk to about getting into the programs. One of the first and easiest programs I got into was New Directions. Upon completion of the program, 90 days was subtracted from my sentence. That program gave me some hope as to getting out of prison faster, so I tried to get into as many of these types of programs that I could. Along the way, I figured out how to work the kiosk machine, which keeps track of your time, and order from the canteen. Keeping track of your good time and work credit became a daily thing. Every day counts in prison. I also had to find a job. Everyone had to have some sort of job, so for a while I examined the possibilities. I heard that there might be a job available at the library, so off I went to talk to the librarian. Turns out that a job was available as a grievance aide, which I didn't know a lot about. But I had office type experience, so I ended up starting as a grievance aide at the library. I got a semi-private room which was connected to the legal aid's office. I had my own typewriter and grievance forms to fill out for anyone who wanted to file a proper complaint. I liked the librarian. He didn't give me any trouble, and he did a really good job at the library. There were a number of inmates working there doing different jobs. The library was the place to go for info: books, magazines, newspapers, policy updates, and a filing cabinet full of forms. It took a few weeks to get used to being a grievance aide. There are things an inmate can and cannot file a grievance about. After word got out on the yard that I was the grievance aide, it started to get busy. One of the first grievances I got was over the phone system being monitored. The inmate was concerned about legal calls between him and his attorney being monitored. I certainly understood the importance of having a private conversation with your attorney, but a grievance aide can only do certain things: helping to file the grievance and getting into the system to be viewed by the grievance committee, and helping filing appeals to the proper office and such is what the job is about. I didn't have anything to do with making decisions about the grievances. That's up to others in the system. There were a lot of different grievances filed about a lot of different things. I got a lot of grievances over the chow hall. There were grievances about the cats not being fed correctly, and a variety of legal issues and things. Inmates would stop me on the yard and ask me about various things that were going on and whether they could file a grievance about a situation. I wasn't in dorm 3 long. After a month or so, word came that they were closing dorm 3, which they did. All inmates housed there had to move to another dorm. I got moved to dorm 2 C Bay, which is the newer dorm right across the street from dorm 3. Dorm 2 was a big dorm, sort of looks like a big brick ranch house. There are 4 major bays. Each has 50 beds, and a few smaller bays with beds. I got a top bunk in a cube. Each cube has 4 beds and a small table fixed to the wall which separates the bunk beds. Here's where I met Donnie, a younger guy from Letcher County. Donnie had been at Blackburn for a while, and I got to know him over the months. Sea Bay turned out to be a pretty good bay. Donnie knew what to watch out for, cameras, guards, and such. You had to be careful with anything you do so as to not get a write-up. Write-ups can be bad. If you got wrote up for the wrong thing, they would ship you behind the fence, which means a harder prison. While working as a grievance aide, I heard about write-ups all the time. Inmates came into the legal office just about every day to talk to the legal aide about getting a write-up and what they could do about it. I sort of liked Blackburn. I knew that there were worse places I could have ended up, so I stayed alert and tried not to do anything that I could be written up for. One thing I liked about Blackburn was being allowed to walk around the yard. There were sidewalks, and each dorm had a walking track that you could go to and get a run-in or a nice walk. Dorm 2's track had a view of one of the major interstates out in the distance, with horses and cattle in the middle. You could walk the track and see the cars and trucks go by in the distance. A small wire fence separated the cattle from the track area, and we had metal tables there where we could sit. I walked a lot, every day possible.